Why hello there, welcome to a Flowcat video. Today I wanted to bring to you an entirely new video format that I want to explore for the foreseeable future. Most of my content prior to this has been unscripted, kind of just discussion-based content. Sometimes that content revolved around team building and focusing on unpopular characters and how you can build teams around them and still succeed in the game. While other times I would just make discussion-based content around like hot takes or just various ideas that I know are unpopular in the community, but yet I wanted to voice. Regardless of what the content was about, over the past year or more, I have not scripted a single video of mine. I come up with ideas or things that I want to discuss or whatever, bullet points, and then I just ramble on in my videos. I have found out that through trial and error of doing this, my brain shuts off when I start recording a video. Essentially, it becomes really hard for me to pull from specific memories or to bring things to the forefront of my attention because there's a bunch of stuff distracting you when there are lights and all sorts of other things going on. So for the first time, I am going to try a scripted style of video. I'm not used to doing this, so I will do my best with the reading of it to be engaging and make it feel more like a discussion than just me blabbing on. But do keep in mind that this is something that I am not really used to doing, although I expect that I will get better at it over time. The characters of Genshin Impact have unique lives, and like all of us, their views are informed by their experiences. Despite the world being one of fantasy, the themes and stories have ties to real ideas and philosophy, or are directly related to the mythos of various cultures. In this series, we will be exploring the backstories of all the characters in the game, with a focus on how their outlook on life developed over time. Today, I present to you a video on the life and personal philosophy of Chongyun.
My name is Chongyun. My family has practiced the art of exorcism in Liyue for many generations.
Born with a rare constitution, he has a spirit of pure, positive energy. Though this would bring the boy an incredible power, the ability to repel evil by simply existing, it would also bring him significant frustration. This incredible power meant that spirits would disappear before an exorcism could even be performed, and for that reason, Chongyun has actually never seen one. This odd constitution also made him a bit of a wild card in social settings outside of exorcisms, as it feels to others to be a positivity so bright that it overwhelms, blinds, and even burns. For all these reasons, Chongyun grew to view it as a disorder. It was embarrassing when he would give in to impulses and felt that anyone or anything that brought this nature out was to be avoided. No hot food, lively music, anything fun that might cause an episode. Discipline became a dear friend, and the efforts in suppressing it would work in almost every aspect of life, except for exorcisms. No matter what he tried, it would ward away evil, even when suppressed. This frustrated Chongyun further and fed into a drive to figure out a way to fully control it. Discipline, meditation, and martial arts had all helped in some ways, but nothing would fully resolve this conflict between Chongyun and his nature. Regardless, Chongyun would not let this faze him and pressed onward to train and develop skills in martial arts and thaumaturgy. This continued until our boy Chongyun was accepted as a practicing exorcist, traveling around Liyue to repel evil spirits for anyone able to pay the modest fee. He was, and still is, extremely good at this, but not for anything to do with practice, since evil spirits were repelled by Chongyun, well, by showing up. Exorcisms usually looked a bit bizarre. Every exorcism became just Chongyun sitting in a chair, waiting for a departed spirit to come confront him. No doubt, this has had great success, but not in the way of appearances. As successful as they always were, the exorcisms left most people baffled. Worse than that, many people would also refuse to pay or even spread negative rumors about the practice. Even in the face of this, Chongyun, being an honest person, does not like the idea of faking it. There were others who would go around making a joke out of the practice of exorcism. They believed they could fool their clients with chants and other theatrics. Sadly, this was indeed effective, but it was still a line that Chongyun refused to cross. Chongyun has continued to practice and works towards bringing his essential nature under full control, and to also vanquish all evil from the world. No big deal. I mean, most people set goals like brushing their teeth or going to the store, but not Chongyun. There's a sense of intense determinism about him, with the many frustrations and setbacks seeming to do nothing to stop that. As many of you know, Chongyun has a best friend, Xingqiu. They are usually inseparable, and the dynamic between the two is interesting to say the least. Xingqiu, a genuine prankster, has been known to mess with Chongyun over his stubbornness. Not in a dismissive way, mind you, quite the opposite, really. It's more about egging Chongy on. One day, he gave Chongyun the idea that maybe instead of suppressing the pure yang spirit, it might be better to search for a spirit that could withstand it. This was a pretty big epiphany for Chongyun, and it resulted in Xingqiu earning the respect of the young exorcist. They would find rumors of legendary spirits and go out to investigate. This sounds like a wholesome story, except for the fact that Xingqiu made it all up. More so out of just curiosity. He thought that it would be interesting to see how far Chongyun would take it. The thing is, Chongyun never figured out it was a prank. The steely determinism persisted even here. No matter how silly the rumors were, Chongyun couldn't let the possibility of an evil spirit escape him. This continues to this day, with one being unwilling to admit the scheme and the other being unwilling to give up hope. This is Chongyun in the present, having yet to complete the goals he set out for. As well, it has yet to dawn on the exorcist that these tasks are in themselves impossible. This creates a state of continuous conflict. We've already discussed this at great length, but it seems that his best friend isn't the only one who admires the determination to face the impossible. The vision granted to Chongyun could be a sign that the gods also admire this resolve. One day, he will become the greatest exorcist in Liyue, control his abundance of yang energy, and rid the world of evil spirits. Now that we've covered his backstory up to the current day, we can discuss homeostasis and achieving balance. In medicine, there is a term called homeostasis. This refers to the body's ability to maintain balance between all the various systems inside of you and the outside world. You have a cardiovascular system, a muscular system, an endocrine system, and more. These all have specific functions for the organism as a whole. They also respond to outside factors, so if the outside world has different properties, your body will adjust to achieve homeostasis. Homeostasis can't exist in a vacuum without external factors. The external factors are the stimuli to which the various bodily systems respond. If the outside world is hot, your body will react to cool you down and prevent you from heating up, thus maintaining balance. The reason why this is so important may not be obvious at first. In a vacuum, with nothing to respond to, it is impossible for the body to create homeostasis. The various environmental factors and stresses create the conditions that the body must work to meet. So you might have wondered before, how do doctors know what to do? How do they decide what treatments to use and how much? It all lies within this idea of homeostasis. We have studied and collected a lot of information to create known standard values to represent this state of balance. Why do doctors care about the temperature 98.6 specifically? Because it represents the temperature that most bodies try to achieve for homeostasis. That number is the proper balance, excluding outliers. When someone presents with a medical condition, the primary concern is that the condition is throwing off homeostatic balance. We can see how this connects directly with Chongyun. Most people have a balance of yin and yang energies. While this varies among the population, there is generally speaking a normative range. Chongyun is considered an outlier, born with a condition that constantly pushes his body out of balance. Everything Chongyun does is an attempt to create and maintain a balance of forces in his body. If his positive energy spirals out of control, it could lead to a variety of issues. This pursuit is constant for him, as his body is always pushing toward an imbalanced state. This can actually be seen directly in certain medical conditions. Let's explore a particular gland in the body to further deepen this connection: the thyroid. There are two commonly diagnosed conditions for this gland: hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism. In the first, the gland is overproducing hormones, causing a higher metabolic rate, tremors, and an irregular heartbeat. In the second, the same gland is underproducing the same hormones, causing fatigue, sore muscles, constipation, and a slow heart rate. You probably can already guess that these hormones are important to us. They help keep us alive and regulate basic functions such as how fast your heart beats. A normal thyroid produces the perfect amount of hormones to keep the body in a balanced state, but an abnormal or sick thyroid will throw the body out of whack. Treatments are applied to simply put the body back into the state of balance, homeostasis. I will say quickly before this section, I am doing my best with pronunciation, but I know that I am not perfect. So yeah, there you go. Yin-yang energies, constitution, and the properties of things. Taoism is an Eastern practice that has been around since ancient times. The history and ancestry of Taoism is deep and rich, and unfortunately, I will not be able to provide all of that here. That being said, I do want to explore some ideas that are relevant to our boy Chongy. To call yin and yang an important symbol is quite the understatement. Originally, yin and yang were most likely used as categorical descriptors, like to describe two different sides of a hill, the shady side or the sunny side, respectively. You would have a farmer describing to another where to plant the seeds, where to avoid, etc. Over time, the distinctions of the two principles were broadened and used in many different aspects of life. From food, interior design, fashion, and personality, the attributes assigned to the two are everywhere. Yang energy is attributed to things like passion, positivity, impulsiveness, anger, or pride. Yin energy is attributed to things like mystery, negativity, carefulness, fear, or creativity. People are said to contain both energies. Like the two sides of a coin, they can be considered opposites while also being necessary parts of the whole. Certain aspects of self can also affect the distribution of yin-yang energies within a person, creating a unique constitution for each individual. In Chongyun's case, he was born with a pure yang spirit. This means that instead of there being a natural balance of the two energies, he is entirely without yin spirit. If we look at the actual symbol, you see that there are small dots combined within the head of each spiral. This is purposeful to represent the fact that even though they are opposing forces, they need each other to exist. The contrast between the two is all that differentiates the two halves, together creating the whole of existence. Yang energy, no matter how pure, contains the seedlings of yin energy, and vice versa. In this way, one will never exist without the other, and as well, it could be said that this counts for Chongyun. He is who he is, and no amount of popsicles will ever change that. It's not that the yang spirit is inherently bad. As a matter of fact, it actually is the root of what makes him such an effective exorcist. It comes with unique upsides and downsides. Learning effective coping strategies is a great thing, but it's unlikely that the situation will ever completely resolve. Connections to Zen students seeking an answer, a solution. Now this idea is a bit more specific. Zen Buddhism is a well-known practice in the East. Those who practice will need to seek out monks from whom they can learn. Toward this end, they seek out a monastery where monks live and practice, with a master overseeing them. Oftentimes, students will seek out a master and beg to be taught, being refused many times before finally being considered a student. It is commonplace for a student to look for a master, but not vice versa. As a matter of fact, not all masters even see themselves as such. The master certainly does not see the student as such, as a lesser, or as someone needing to learn. Instead, it is the student that looks for the answers, the solutions, and a master to teach them. The student believes that they have a deficiency in wisdom or knowledge. What they lack, they believe the master has. In this dynamic, the student is the one creating the hierarchy, while the master simply is playing a role. In Zen Buddhism, there are little stories that are told highlighting the moments where students attained enlightenment. In some of these stories, the moment of awakening for the student was simply realizing that they are no different than the master. No amount of practice, reading, or meditation will ever change that. They were, on their first day at the monastery, as equal to the master as they are now. Some students, however, spend decades studying, practicing, and meditating, thinking that they are in pursuit of an ever closer goal, of an ever closer achievement that will signify the graduation to enlightenment. Perhaps you might see the parallels that I'm drawing here between Zen and our boy Chongy. Let me outline them just to make it clear. Chongyun believes that there is something wrong with him and that he has a big problem that needs to be solved. His journey to suppress his spirit is built on the foundation that it is something that needs to be suppressed. Clearly, though, his constitution is not all bad. Zhongling once saw Chongyun act with his yang spirit for an entire evening, and she accepted him regardless. Moving forward, all we can hope is that Chongyun realizes that there's nothing wrong with who he is, and that there are people who accept him even when his constitution gets a little out of control. He often feels ashamed of passionate outbursts, impulsive actions, or anything that represents who he really is. Personally, I hope someday he finds acceptance with his peculiar constitution and learns to live in harmony with it. Chongyun has framed his situation as one where he needs a solution, and yet the only reason his situation needs a solution is because he thinks it does. Maybe the solution is by adjusting the framework to view his spirit as just a part of who he is. The myth of Sisyphus. There are many popular Greek myths, and certainly the myth of Sisyphus is one of them. He was said to be a clever man, but one that used his cleverness to cross the gods, like Zeus. Zeus did not like this, not one bit. He sent death, Thanatos, after Sisyphus. Thanatos was ordered to chain Sisyphus up in Tartarus, a prison in the underworld. Sisyphus did not like this, not one bit. He tricked Thanatos and chained him up, which halted all dying in the world. This made many gods angry, including Ares, who then came and freed Thanatos, as well as turning Sisyphus over to him. But Sisyphus wasn't going to let it end there. He could still plot, and so by golly, he still had a chance. He convinced his wife not to bury him or to do any burial rites, as he planned to return from the underworld, and that he did, cheating death twice and living to a ripe old age. Upon his death, he was sentenced to push a boulder up a hill in Tartarus for all eternity. Once the boulder reaches the top, it rolls down to the bottom and has to be pushed back up again. The nature of the punishment was due to his hubris in thinking that he could be more clever than the gods themselves. This myth, believe it or not, spawned an entire adjective. To say that a task is Sisyphean is to say that it is impossible, and any attempts towards completing it will only end in futility, not progress. If we approach Chongyun's inner conflict from this perspective, it might be accurate to say that his goals are Sisyphean. That's precisely what makes his ambition so special, that he isn't shaken by this. That's quite possibly what led him to acquiring his vision, a will that can stand up to a task of Sisyphean proportions. Also, yeah, he met Zhao one time, and that was pretty dang cute. Bashful Chongyun was cute. He was so excited. Adorbs. And also, he doesn't like Hu Tao, and it kind of makes you wonder if he actually doesn't like her, or if it's just jealousy because Hu Tao and Xingqiu hang out and do poetry stuffs together. But anyway, that's just a theory. Okay. Well, congratulations if you made it this far. You have reached the outro of this video. Incredible. If you have any thoughts or connections you would like to add, please head right down to the comment section and get tippity tappin'. Especially because this is a new series, I want to hear your feedback and thoughts. Don't be afraid to give me constructive criticism. I want to develop this series over time and improve it, and your ideas can help. Also, it's time to start pushing my channel to grow again. Help me push to 2K subs. That is my next arbitrary goal, to motivate people to hit that sub button. Make numbers go up. Also, strike the like button with an orbital laser. If you want other ways to support me, Patreon or channel memberships are absolutely huge, and they help me pay for food to stay alive. I have to admit, this was pretty dang fun to make. I really can't believe it. I used to write a lot in college, and it feels great to put together the story writing elements with researching and making connections to real-world ideas. I did struggle with deciding how long to make this episode, as well as how detailed to get with each connection, and even how many of them to include. I've decided that I want this series to sit around the 20 and 30 minute mark. I think this makes them feel substantial without them being too rambly or bloated. So, yeah. That's the end. Congratulations, and have a great rest of your day. Until next time, stay healthy, stay hydrated. Peace.